Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Jimi, Bethel joining us here from Project Safe Hands. Excited to have him back joining us from beautiful Mesa, Arizona, but worldwide helping everyone. Again, it's called projectsafehands.com. And we've had some great discussions the past few weeks. But first of you, for those of you that may not know, tell us a little bit about what the company is, and then we'll get into great conversation as always.
Project Safe Hands is a community 501c3 that consists of basically former law enforcement officers. And we teach people how to negotiate safely traffic stops and things of that nature. We kind of consult people on what to say, what not to say, and how to avoid conflict on traffic stops. I'll tell you the situation right now with traffic stops can be very dangerous. We're at a period in life where we invest so much into our children. We want to make sure that a lot of them are graduating from college, and a lot of them will be going to college in the fall, and they'll be going to colleges in locations where they're not familiar with. And we want to educate not just them, but also police officers nationwide as to this program that basically is going to establish a new protocol as it applies to the conduct, both police officers and the motorists. The benefits as it applies to the officers, officers killed in the line of duty, the families of officers killed in the line of duty stand to benefit from this program, as well as wounded warriors and wrongful death victims. Unfortunately, those things do happen. But other than that, if you hear anything that kind of perks your ears, just hit us up at 1-888-885-6712 or our website, www.projectsafehands.com. I want to touch a little bit this morning on AI. It's the thing that's going on now. Everybody's talking about
artificial intelligence. Is it taking over the world? What's happening?
Yeah. So I guess it's kind of a good thing and could be a bad thing, really. I was just wondering this morning about folks like myself. I used to do a lot of voiceover, and I'm wondering, what are the people in the voiceover field going to do? Somebody hijacks their voice and uses it.
True.
So it's something to think about, but it's also going to really greatly improve my workload and the things I'm trying to get done, especially as it applies to speaking engagements at colleges, high schools, and especially churches. So it's the world right now is my playground as it applies to really marketing. So I'm very, very excited. I think that we need to change the culture of things. We mean the people. Because I was listening to several politicians, and your mind is what they call a reticular. The mind has a automated, built-in reticular system that it applies to politics. As far as I'm concerned, anyway, you kind of hear the same thing over and over and over every season from politicians, and kind of sounds like a broken record. You hear them, but
you're like, wait.
You're here, but you don't hear it. So any changes that's going to be made, a lot of times we're going to have to make those changes. But we can do that. That's what this project is all about, bringing about changes on the police department and holding bad cops accountable through this system that one of the politicians who was very, very well known has determined he also is going to pardon people from the January 6th insurrection.
Oh no.
Oh,
Uh,
my ears perked up when I heard that, because basically with Project Safe Hands, we have a built-in pardon system that's going to uh, pardon motorists for one traffic violation,
yeah.
not to include DWI,
Uh,
reckless driving. And
what?
the overall goal here, Jill, is to get a mandate for these things anyway,
Mm-hmm.
because nighttime traffic stops can be extremely, extremely deadly. So the more they pardon, the more I feel good about what I'm doing, about what we're doing by offering this pardon system, especially when people are trying to put food on the table with the price of gas that's
Mm-hmm.
finally look like it may be coming down,
Yeah.
but things are still very, very high. And it's a sad state of affairs
Mm.
when you get pulled over for something minor, like a stoplight or whatever, and you have to pay a couple $100. You can't even, you can barely keep a roof over your head to feed your family. So with that in mind, this card is going to be very, very popular. I don't want people to get too hung up on the hands thing, because a lot of people don't understand what safe hands are anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they're just a pair of hat mitts that fit on the fingers. They illuminate the hands at night when you're stopped at night, so that the officer can see your hands when he stops you at night. But that's just a small part of it. As a reward for using safe hands, we're offering this pardon. These pardons uh, are designed to bridge the gap between
Mm-hmm.
the community and the police right now,
Yeah.
because of all the bad things that have happened, and good cops want to rectify that. I've had plenty of time to think since our last interview,
Yep.
and I was reflecting on exactly what's missing today in police
Mm-hmm.
departments nationwide, and that's the community involvement. I know that I put together a group many years ago, entertainment groups, as a matter of fact, and we went to schools, we went to universities, we went all across the United States, and
Mm-hmm.
we pretty much bridged the gap between the community and the police at a time back in the late 60s, early 70s, when it was really, really needed. And it's really, really needed now.
Yeah.
So I have not ruled out bringing back those old guys and doing something in schools again. A lot of the people that we entertained, those kids back in those days, they now have kids. It's kind of like a promise that we made to them then that I like to keep today, keeping them safe, keeping the kids safe. I mean, this was something that really played heavily on my heart. Um, I gave a lot to the police department. The police department doesn't owe me anything. I don't feel like I owe it anything, but I owe the people of the District of Columbia where I policed. I
Mm.
owe them everything because they were good to me.
Yeah.
We're a good community. And at some point, I would like to give back in a good way. I've come a long way, as they say, Jill. But once again, if, if you can help us, if you're a law enforcement officer, or you were a law enforcement officer, and you want to get involved and make a change and make the police departments across the United States decent again, give us a call. 1-888-885-6712, because we're going to need speakers nationwide. Okay, because I can't be everywhere. I know a lot of things I've done
Mm-hmm.
online, but there's nothing like the personal touch. Nothing like actually being there, answering questions from people that have questions. I want police officers that are currently involved
Mm-hmm.
also to get involved. So that's the only way we're going to solve this problem, because we were warned many years ago that our departments will be infiltrated with white domestic terrorists,
Oh,
and actually some of them occupy the White House, not the White House, but
mm-hmm.
Congress. Walking the halls of Congress. Sounds unbelievable, I know, but just think about that.
Can't, yeah.
Th-
I mean,
There were people that tried to overthrow the government that are still in office,
mm-hmm.
and some want them back in office.
Wow.
That's very confusing to me, and I know it's got to be confusing to a lot of other people. But once again, www.projectsafehands.com, and while you're there, check out the website. It's very informative. It will explain everything about the project, and check back often because we make changes all the time to the website. We're having people in the law enforcement field that want to get involved. We'd like to have you involved also if you're out there and you want to make a difference, because it's a good, decent job. And one of the problems that they have nationwide is the recruitment of minority officers, and that should never be a problem. I've worked in recruiting for a while, so I know what the problem is. Many years ago, they would raid black neighborhoods. And let me give you an example. They're hot and heavy right now on people taking pictures of police officers while they're locking people up or whatever. Okay, it's their constitutional right,
Mm.
video or whatever. But
Yeah.
they'll tell you to move on, and if you
Mm-hmm.
don't move on, you're charged with disorderly conduct because you won't move on.
Yeah.
All right. If they put their hands on you and you snatch away, now you assaulted a police officer.
Now,
I mean,
oh gosh. Yeah.
it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And all those things go on your police record. And they stay there. They stay there. They say that they get expunged. Well, yes and no. If you're applying for a sensitive position, very sensitive position, you may
Mm-hmm.
have been 15 or 16 years old, but I can guarantee you, if you're 30, they're going to dig it up out of your records that you
Wow.
were once arrested for assaulting a police officer. A lot of those charges are just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, the police officers are good people, and we can't let a few bad apples, which have now turned into a whole bad orchard, ruin a good profession. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Jill. Uh,
I know, and you've shared your personal story about what you've went through with your time in law enforcement, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. And opening up about, you know, your life and putting your life on the line and what you had to deal with, which is not always easy.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't know it, but uh, I was the son of a barber. My father was a barber in the heart of D.C. in the old Dunbar Hotel. He was from Alamance County, North Carolina. He was a barber. He had a barber shop in D.C. and he was shot and killed at point blank range
Ah,
because he used to help a lot of inmates. He
mm-hmm.
used to give them jobs, side jobs at the
Yeah.
barber shop. And one of the inmates, from what I understand, came back after hours to rob him and shot him point blank range.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was real good with hands, so I could imagine that whoever it was knew that. And I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna fight this guy. We're just gonna shoot him and rob him, take his money, whatever. But anyway,
Yep.
uh, that's a little bit of history about me. But I came to DC at a very early age and stayed there, born in Virginia, a little small town called Good, Virginia. And, my mother sent me back there
Mm-hmm.
after my father was killed, wanting me to be around my cousins. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of us. Tons of cousins. But anyway, I was going on to join the police department, and the rest is history. It wasn't quite as simple as that. I went through some trying times, but I tell people all the time, I got up and I pulled myself up. Eventually went on and as a police officer, well decorated police officer, a performer for presidents of the United
Mm-hmm.
States, senators, congressmen.
Wow.
Came on during the '68 riots and had the privilege and honor of being the bodyguard for Coretta Scott King
Mm-hmm.
on the anniversary march of the March on Washington. And a few years later, I would portray Dr. Martin Luther King on stage at the National Theater,
Yeah.
giving his I Have a Dream speech. But anyway, when I finally finished my book, it all being there. That's pretty much going to wrap it up for me today, Jill. I know that I'm probably just about out of time anyway,
No,
but I
no.
just
We still got time. We got
get out of
another.
here.
We got
How much
6 more minutes. Talk,
How
talk,
many?
talk. Six
How many?
minutes.
How many?
Six. Six.
Oh, ooh, that's a lot of time.
5 minutes. Let's go.
All right. But once again, www.projectsafehands.com. And while you're there, there's a short video that you should look at, experience about traffic stops. Because a lot of people are confused about traffic stops and what they can and cannot do. This video will explain a lot of it. Talks about the attitude on traffic stops. A lot of people don't understand why police officers want you to roll down your window. They want to see you. They want to smell if there's anything in your car. I guess if there's any drugs or whatever. And there's so much going on right now, folks. I can't even express it all. But that's why uh, I do these podcasts. If I don't cover it today, I'll cover it on the next podcast. But just know that it's a very educational website that will enlighten you and will enlighten your son or daughter when they're traveling. Make them a lot safer. But there are people out there that are looking for controversy. It's a very stressful job where there's controversy, where there's shooting. I hate to say it, but there's a lot of profit in crime. There's a lot of profit in investigation. There's a lot of profit in people going to jail. That's the system. We must stop being victims of the system and make the system work for us. Clean system, flush the system out, any corruption within the system. And we can do that. With this project is going to help do that because it's going to hold officers accountable. It's going to hold them accountable because there's a system that's going to reward the good cop. And the good cop is not going to get rewarded if they're bad cops. So what's the good cop going to do?
So
They're going to
true.
flush out the bad cops. I promise you they're going to do that. Because I'm not talking about a little bit of money. I'm talking about a system here goes nationwide like I know it is. It's going to be a very valuable system. It's going to get a lot of support from a lot of good officers that want to do the right thing. Because the streets right now are flooded with guns. Good cops don't want guns, don't want streets flooded with guns. Yeah, they're afraid. They're human just like everybody else. They want to go home to their wives, to their sons and daughters. It's no fun. It's no fun. You actually have Congress that approved the sale of silencers to every citizen. Think about that. You're a police officer. You sit down and have a cup of coffee. Some bozo walks up to you, puts a silencer on his gun, and can shoot you just like that. Nobody even know. You can go into a concert with
Wow.
loud music because of things like that. Put a silence on a gun and do a lot of harm to a lot of people.
Oh, so sad. Yep.
And this
So
was
true.
passed by a congressman who was shot
Oh,
at a
yep.
baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe that?
That's
Is that
crazy.
insane or
It's
what?
horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah. So once again, www.projectsafehands.com. Support us in any way that you can. I'm going to put up a fresh GoFundMe site there on the site so that if you want to give, you can give. But other than that, Jill, that's your phone or mine.
Oh, thank you. I love it because you are just such a kind person, and you're here helping so many. And we're urging everyone to go to the website, please, Project Safe Hands, and to reach out. There's so much they could do to really, inform yourself about the proper etiquette. First of all, I told you that. My dad always tells me, when you get pulled over, put the hands on the wheel, right? Keep the keys on the dashboard. Do this. But now, if
Yeah.
you have your Project Safe Hands on,
Mhm.
right,
Mhm. That's
it's even better.
right. This is even better. Even
Ah,
better.
mm,
You don't know, we don't know as police officers who's on the other side of that glass no more than you know who we are. Two people meet that know nothing about each other.
I know. I
And that,
know.
and
Ah,
depending on the attitude, it can be pretty much deadly.
oh,
We don't want that to happen.
gosh. Well, thank you again so much. Let's also remind everyone one more time the best form of contact. Thank you.
Yes, www.projectsafehands.com or 1-888-885-6712. Thank
Perfect.
you, and God bless.
Thank you so much. Really, Jimmy, I appreciate it. It's a pleasure
All right.
having you here as always. Have a great day. And thank you again to all of our listeners. Stay tuned. More of the show is on the way.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.